The Talksport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the Talksport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search Talksport Fan Network.
Welcome back to Cherry Picking, all Cherries fans, and thank you for joining us. Before we get going, hit like, hit subscribe, hit the bell button. It helps this channel to grow. Now, we do want to say a big thank you to our sponsors. Firstly, Dental on the Banks at dentalonthebanks.co.uk for all your dental needs, and also Touchpoint Telecoms, touchpointtelecoms.co.uk for all your business telecoms needs around the country. So, without further ado, let me introduce my two guests. You'll recognise them both. Firstly, Mr. Matthew Harrison. How you doing, Matt?
Yeah, all good, Craig. Yeah, looking forward to this one. A few tasty things to discuss, and yeah, looking forward to it.
Definitely. And it is a warm welcome back to Malcolm Chiverton. How you doing, Malcolm?
Yeah, hi guys. All good. Yeah, been pulled off the bench this evening.
Excellent, mate. You're not on the bench. You're part of the team now. Welcome to the team, Malcolm.
Well, I did get a message this morning, which has come as a bit of a surprise. So, I thought, well, am I a sub today or what?
No,
okay.
never, mate. Never at all, Malcolm. So you're always welcome, and it's always delightful to see your face and welcome you on this show. So,
Thanks.
The regular. Let's get Guess the Cherry underway. And comments. The comment section is where you put your guesses. So, Matt, do you want to run through it?
Yeah, no worries. So this week's Guess the Cherry, a Pompey legend with 3 under-21 England caps, known as a striker, but also could play right back. Man City paid a then club record £3 million fee for his services from Portsmouth. Made 146 appearances for the Cherries, scoring 12 goals, and is currently the assistant manager at Port Vale.
So who is he? Leave your guesses in the comments. Don't check it before you guess, because that's just ruining the surprise. And a big congratulations to this person, because Port Vale have recently been promoted from League 2 back into League 1 after a season away. So excellent stuff from them. Well, I tell you what, let's discuss last weekend's game, guys. And of course, that game was against the Villains, and Bournemouth rue late misses. I'll just run through a couple of pieces here. So Villa can no longer finish lower than 7th, meaning they are guaranteed European football in at least the UEFA Conference League next season. The visitors were reduced to 10 men in the 80th minute when Jacob Ramsey was shown his second yellow card, but they held on in the sunkest Bournemouth to stay 6th in the Premier League table and maintain the pressure on the teams above. In the final minute of the first half, stoppage time, Watkins guided Morgan Rogers' low cross into the bottom corner with a delicate, deft touch. It was the England striker's 75th league goal for Villa and moved him one clear of Gabby Bonglahor's previous record haul. Villa endured a nervy finish when Ramsey received a second yellow for tripping David Brooks on the halfway line. Ramsey had been booked in the first half after he squared up to Adam Smith following a poor challenge from the Cherries captain. A man to the good, Bournemouth came incredibly close to an equaliser in the final seconds when Emiliano Martinez made a fingertip save to deny Antoine Semenyo's close-range header, and defender Matty Cash managed to nip in front of Daniel Jefferson to clear the ball off the line. Top 5 chasing Villa are now level on points with 4th and 5th place Newcastle and Chelsea, who played each other on the Sunday. So we're going to give our views on this defeat to Aston Villa. Malcolm, you was watching this on the TV. Me and Matt were in the stands, sat next door to each other. But what did you make of this game?
Probably the worst performance of the season, if I'm being honest. It wasn't a very good view. I think over the 90 minutes, Villa did what they had to do. Very well organised defensively, but we just lacked everything in the final third. It was a hard watch for a Bournemouth fan. Yeah.
Interesting that. Matt, do you share that?
Yeah, when you look back on it now, I would probably agree with that. It's definitely up there with, not that we've had many bad performances this season, but yeah, you would put it in that category that it's one of the worst. Definitely the most frustrating, I would say, from where I was sat. But yeah, I agree with Malcolm. Defensively, I thought Villa was sound. I felt a little bit frustrated, and I think that's where my frustration is for Evan Nelson, because he was doing, he's running into space and channels and that, but sometimes I just feel that he doesn't get the delivery he kind of requires in that sort of final third. So I thought that was quite frustrating. I don't know whether Malcolm agree or whether it seemed different on the TV, but I felt, I'm sure any Villa fans would probably cane me, but I think they went down a bit easy. I think they were looking for it at times.
I think a lot of teams do it these days, Matt, to be honest with you.
I thought I thought they really stood out though for me on Saturday. I know that, totally agree. A lot of teams do it. But I thought they really stood out for me on Saturday. I don't know what you thought, Craig. I mean, I don't know. Overall, the 90 minutes, frustrating. Frustrating. Especially when you go back to the reverse fixture up at Villa Park, where we grinded out a draw. Obviously, keeper made a good save from Semenyo's header, and I know Matty Cash was involved with the Jefferson, scenario there, and I think I predicted a draw, I think, didn't I, for that one? Did I predict a draw last week?
I think you did. Yeah, you did, didn't you?
I think got a draw from it. I think really, okay. I knew it was going to be a difficult game, but I didn't think it'd be as frustrating as it was watching it.
Yeah. No, fair enough. Yeah, to be honest, it was a really, really, really frustrating game. It was difficult. It was a real battle. Villa are a quality side. Don't get me wrong. They're a quality side. They deserve to be where they are. But at the same time, we didn't help ourselves. Those midfield battles, were frustrating. So yeah, I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed. We've been beaten by a good side. You know, I think they're defensively very, very sound. But I don't know. Are we being harsh that it's one of the worst performances of the season? I know which is the worst, and it was the night before I went to Abu Dhabi. I remember it because the thing is that Ipswich game is terrible. It really was poor. I don't think he's on that level. Don't think he's on that level. But we could have got something out of this. And really, when that sending off happened, we did pick up the pace a bit, didn't we?
Right.
That's an interesting one, actually, the sending off. Because speaking to a couple of people that I knew at the game, now they were sat in the main stand. They reckon it was a bit of a soft red card.
I don't think so.
What, for the second yellow, you mean?
Yeah. Yeah. There was a couple of comments that it was soft. Thing is, where we were sat, I mean, they had quite a good view from it because they sit not too far from the dugout, sort of in between where the press sit and where the dugouts are. They kind of sit in that block there. And so I think they had a better view of it than what we had. But yeah, a couple of them were saying they thought that second yellow and that red was pretty soft. I mean, obviously the first one, was deserved. Obviously, I know it was a poor challenge from Smithy, but he had to take one for the team there, didn't he?
Yeah.
But obviously it was the players' reaction after, wasn't it? And deservedly so. But they reckon on that second yellow, they reckon it was pretty soft. But yeah, you're right. We did kind of pick up the pace, but it was kind of one of those games sat there. I think I said to yourself or Sam, I said, it's going to be one of those days where that ball just does not go in.
Yeah, it never felt for us, did it?
It just felt like it just wasn't going to go in. But a season has got to be judged across a whole season, not just one game. So,
agree.
You can't, we can't just be, disheartened and think, we've blown it just on that one game, like you've mentioned, Ipswich, and there's, several other games, this season that we've let ourselves down a bit. But overall, I would just describe it from our perspective, frustrating.
Well, hold that thought. We'll come back to the thought that the players have let the side down, because we'll discuss that at the end, because it'll be quite interesting to cover that off. I've seen things, especially on the wonderful place of X, Twitter. It really isn't wonderful, it's horrible. But to be honest, there's a lot of comments on there from Cherries fans saying about players letting them down. And of course, it does spill over onto other mediums as well. So we'll come back to that. But I tell you what, let's discuss one of the big talking points, and that is giving the elbow. Now, Tyrone Mings, of course, it was fairly shortly into the game, probably about 15 minutes, if I'm right in thinking. There was a clash between Alex Scott and Tyrone Mings. And let's debate this, because I've got...
Let's quickly. This is the images. Before we debate it, let's have a look at what the manager said and some others said, and then we can give our kind of point of view. So that's the image. That's the steal of it. I mean, I think that, kind of paints the picture of obviously what we're talking about. You've got an angle from the reverse, the angle from the front. But the gaffer's point of view was this.
Well, I'll read it out. So Andoni obviously wasn't happy. So the second yellow that Ramsey received is not a second yellow. The Spaniard told BBC Sport, Tyrone Mings knows what he is doing. He knew where Alex was. It was very violent. The value of a red card in the 6th minute or the 80th minute is very different. He sees Alex coming, and for me, it is very dangerous. He almost knocked out. He was almost knocked out. I'll get my words right in a minute. After the elbow, we didn't know if he could continue. He wanted to continue, but he was not 100%. It was a very violent elbow. This is a big, big, big discussion point. Let's go back to those previous images.
Hold on 1 second. That's the
Well,
pundit view.
The pundits, right? Okay. So BBC Match of the Day pundits discussed the incident, and former Wales defender Ashley Williams said, "I don't think he means it, but only Tyrone Mings knows. I think it is the height difference in this. Mings does have a little look to see where the pressure is coming from and puts his arm out to protect the ball. It's a nasty collision." Former Newcastle and Aston Villa goalkeeper Shay Given said, "I kind of disagree. I think he knows what he's doing a little bit. He does have a look at him. He doesn't swing the elbow, but he straight arms him right across the jaw." So here we go. Let's give our thoughts. I'll tell you what, I'll go first with this because I have got some, views from other people. So my dad watched this game and he saw this incident. And he said it should have been a straight red card. And he made the point that Tyrone Mings has kind of got he's got a kind of history with this sort of thing. So the kind of history that he's got is because of what happened to Zlatan Ibrahimovic, as we'll know, all those years ago against Manchester United, of what happened, and this was probably the worst of the lot, Nelson Oliveira, where there was a cut right across his face. And he feels that Tyrone Mings has got that history. However, a lot of people might turn around and say, and I've met Tyrone myself, and I don't think Tyrone is a violent player. I don't think he's a violent player. He's definitely not a violent person. He's a very nice person. But does he know what he's doing? I kind of side with Shay Given here. That Shay Given said, yeah, I think he's got an idea of what he's doing. Right, Malcolm, do you think Tyrone Mings meant this, or do you think this is purely accidental?
Well, you're putting me on the spot here.
Yeah.
I don't think it was deliberate. Okay, that's my view.
Mm.
I mean, on my first thought after it happened, Alex Scott ran into him. Now, because it happened so very quickly, in game time, you'd have to wait for the replays to come back and see that what was Mingsy's position. Did he take a glance? Were his arms up there already, which they weren't, so obviously he had to bring them up. The interesting point is he didn't actually swing his elbow. All right, his arms were up, but he didn't actually move out. The fact that Scotty ran into him is probably what made the officials decide that it was not deliberate and therefore no action taken. It is a tough call, and yes, I understand what you say about previous incidents that have happened. Simply because he didn't swing his elbow or swing his arm, for me, I wouldn't say it was intentional. He was maybe like the pundits say, protecting the ball, protecting his space. Only he will know. it is a tough cookie to call. You can see it from both sides, basically.
Matt, I'm going
to. My belief is that Alex Scott actually ran into it, and I thought, well, okay, he's big enough; you should see that coming. But that's football.
Yeah.
I'm going to spin this, Matt, and ask you a very, very interesting question to this. Because of his previous, is there more of a spotlight over Tyrone Mings than any other player out there because of Ibrahimovic, because of Oliveira? Is there going to be more made of it when something like this happens? Remember, this man used to play for this football club. This man has got many friends at this football club still. So it's an interesting one, this.
I mean, firstly, I think as a player, I don't think he is. I wouldn't class him as a dirty player myself. I rate him, to be honest. I think he's a good defender, the type of defender I would like in my team. To be honest, I kind of agree with actually Williams's point. To be honest, I know unfortunately Scott has got a terrible injury from it. No one likes to see players get injured. That's the first thing. No one likes to see that. Like Malcolm says, there's no swing in the elbow. If you're deliberately doing it, okay, they say, I know Shay Given said he kind of knew the players, but his arm has been, he's raised his arm, but he hasn't swung the arm. That's, and it is a difficult one. I mean, if you take a look at Ref Watch on Sky, Dermot Gallagher explains pretty well. But then again, it's all opinion, isn't it? Because he says one thing, and then I think the panel that was on there, I forget the two people that were on there, the ex-pros, one of them disagreed.
Yeah.
So I think if you had maybe 3 or 4 referees sat here now, it'd be interesting to see how each one of them interpreted it. Because I think another referee on another day may have sent Mings off. Now, if you look at the Jackson elbow from the Newcastle-Chelsea game, I was reading that someone was saying, yes, Jackson does look, but in Jackson's defence, they were saying, now whether this is true or not, only people know, they reckon that he anticipated Botman to jump. Of course, Botman didn't jump. This situation, I don't think is malicious.
I tell you what, I'm going to throw another spin into this as well. It's becoming a bit like the Jeremy Kyle show, this. We're going to go over it. Did he, didn't he? Let's ask the audience, find out. Well, no, it wasn't it Graham or something. I can't remember what the Jeremy Kyle show was like. But, I was normally at work at that point, to be fair.
I couldn't chip in on that one. I ain't got a clue.
Yeah, to be honest, I used to watch it on ITV every now and again for a bit of a laugh sometimes. But I tell you what, this is the thing that I'm thinking. If you hold your elbow in that angle, that is the hard bit. That's the hard bit. Now, if you're holding it at that angle, if somebody runs into that, or somebody's coming, that's going to hurt. If Tyrone Mings held his arm straight out, there is not going to be that impact. What's interesting, though, and what I think would that holding your arm right out to shield the ball be seen as more... You see where I'm going with this, don't you? If you hold your arm out, Could it be seen by some as more deliberate? Is it an unnatural position? Let's be honest, players don't run with their arms out like that. They don't run around like aeroplanes. If he had known that he was coming, if he had held his arm right out, could that actually have been seen, Malcolm, as more of a serious thing compared to this? Because I don't think he's a dirty player. I think, he's a very, very nice man, Tyrone Mings, when I've met him. I think he has got a reputation now, but if he held his arm out like that, could that be seen as even more serious, even though the impact wouldn't have been as bad?
I mean, that is hypothetical, isn't it?
Yeah.
Don't detract from what actually happened.
Yeah.
I don't know. Obviously, if he didn't have his elbow out, it would be, excuse me, that the injury wouldn't have been so severe. Certainly,
Yeah.
He'd have had an impact there, but it wouldn't have been quite so bad. There's also, you could throw into the equation. It was really interesting. I can't remember where I read it since the weekend. There was a little discussion about Tyrone Mings and the dark arts. So take it as you will. Really interesting article. But the consensus was no, he isn't one of those type of players. So, and I'd go along with that. I wouldn't say that he is a malicious player. I think he's a very solid defender. He's had bad luck with injuries. He's come back. He's fought his way back into the side, and just see where it goes from here. It is just one of those things that happened, and you can discuss it until next Christmas if you want. But I stand by what I saw. Made judgment that Alex Scott ran into him, and it just happened. It's just one of those things. It wasn't deliberate. So,
I mean,
take the pickings out of
that. Yeah. I mean, if you look at a guy called Keith Hackett, who was part of PGMOL, what they call it.
Yes, yeah.
He's actually come out and described it as reckless. And his what he actually said was early in the game, Tyrone Mings challenged for the ball and clearly with a bent arm, elbow and backwards movement made contact with the face of Bournemouth Scott, who went to ground holding his face. VAR checked and determined that it was not a red card. The action by Mings was reckless, a yellow card offence at a minimum. However, VAR under the criteria is not allowed to recommend a yellow card. The movement, although reckless, lacked excessive force to cross the line from the sanction of a yellow to a red.
Define excessive force. What is excessive force?
I suppose that's down to individual interpretation, I suppose.
Yeah.
Well, this is the problem with football and VAR nowadays, because if that happened, if Tyrone Mings did that and it was to Erling Haaland, would this be the same scenario as what we're talking about now? Because would he have gone? If it was a different referee and this happened, would it be again? There's no consistency. Would somebody who's based in Stockley Park watching the monitor, have a difference of opinion? This is the problem with VAR, is the consistency of it. Now, back in the day, as we all will remember, this thing, it was commonplace, really, wasn't it? The players were a bit tougher, the players were a bit meaner. You had the likes of Roy Keane, Patrick Vieira, Duncan Ferguson, all wanting to kick 7 saves of shit out of each other. But I think Tyrone Mings is unlucky in some ways, because he's had these 2 incidents historically, and I think that reputation, he just can't shake it. He can't shake it. If this was, say, for example, Matty Cash, would we be having this conversation now?
Probably wouldn't have happened.
I don't know. I don't know whether, an elbow's an elbow, isn't it? No matter who does it. So if an elbow, I see what you're saying, but no, I think the conversation would be had regardless to what player it was there. If it went unpunished and you think it should have been punished, you would be discussing that point.
Yeah.
I don't think personally, just because it's, I think this is something that I think is down to opinion. At the end of the day, the decision, the game's gone, nothing's going to change. Unfortunately, Scott's got an injury, and obviously, hopefully, he gets back fit and ready for pre-season, which is the most important thing from our perspective.
100%.
But yeah, no, I think it's all down to how I think it's interpreted by the individual, and I think the piece there from Keith kind of demonstrates that by him using the term excessive.
Because social media was awash with opinions. Some people thought no. Some people thought yes. There was fans of other clubs that was on both sides of the fence. There was Bournemouth fans that said it wasn't. Like Malcolm said there. It's a very, very difficult one. Only Tyrone Mings will know if he meant to do this. And honestly, I don't think he did. As much as people will say, well, you're wrong. And I'm sure there will be people that will be watching this and going, no, you're completely wrong. And, having a right moan about us to themselves. I honestly think that he's not meant to do this, but only Tyrone Mings will know. But he knows people at this club, and I don't think he would have done this, on purpose.
No, that's a fair point.
Yeah. Fair point. So there we go. Was Tyrone Mings, did he do it maliciously? Do you think he should have had a red card? Leave your comments in the comment section below, because it's an interesting debate. It will rattle on. And of course, I'll have to have another whinge about VAR at some point. Those. I tell you what, the referee friends that always seems to turn up in the comments section when I moan about referees and VAR, is going to be coming back, isn't he? So, hello, whoever you are. I think he's some sort of professional referee, from what it sounds like, but. And the big but, who knows who he is? He's the secret referee. We've got one. It's not Mark Housey, so we know it's not him, but it could be somebody else, because Mark Housey actually agreed with me and disagreed with this other fella. But there we go. I tell you what, though, let's talk about somebody who is leaving the football club, and it's a real shame. Dean Huijsen's dream move to Real Madrid is going to become reality. I think we all kind of knew that this was going to possibly happen. So who wants to go first? Matt, do you want to go first on this?
Yeah, can do. Well, yeah, obviously we've seen obviously this in the press for a long time. As soon as his release clause was, announced at a bargain price. Plus, we got to give 10% to Juventus as well from the profit. So yeah, I mean, it's Real Madrid, isn't it? I mean,
yeah.
What I will say, from what's come out in the press in the last sort of couple of hours by Dino wanting to play these last 2 games and still be part of the squad until the end of the season shows the player's character. He's got an
100%.
absolute dream move coming up. He's going to be probably playing at the World Club Cup because he's going to be going earlier, which obviously the 2 clubs will agree, and he will play for Real Madrid in the Club Cup, World Club Cup, or whatever it's called. So, by mid-June, we could probably be seeing him in a Real Madrid shirt. But I think the testament to the player is how he still wants to come back and finish the season for his teammates and say thank you to the club that's invested in him and given him top flight football in the Premier League. I think I just think it's quality. So hats off to the guy. For such a young lad, who's going to, let's be honest, I think every boy's dream, is probably to play for their hometown club and then probably Real Madrid, isn't it? So it's absolutely massive. And I mean, I'm going to watch his career. He's going to blossom into a world-class player. It's been a privilege to watch him week in, week out. It's a shame from us. I mean, what I would love to have seen, him sign for Real Madrid and maybe Real Madrid loan him back for another year. That would have been lovely to see. Guarantee him some, first team football. But I think this guy, and I've said it before, I think he's going to go straight in there. I really, really do. I think he's going to go straight in there. And, in a few years' time, if you've got any signed Dean Huijsen shirts, you want to keep hold of them because I think they're going to be worth a bit of money in years to come.
Yeah, I think so as well. And honestly, who can blame the lad? Say for example, if he was turning around and saying, I'm off to let's just pick any old team, Crystal Palace, we'd be like, what? But this is the biggest football club on the entire planet. This is a football club that, the Galacticos, that anybody, dreams of playing for. We've had players like Zinedine Zidane, David Beckham, you name it. It honestly, the players. I could go through a whole list, but I'd bore everybody to tears. But Luis Figo, for example, all these sort of players. Although saying that, I don't know if Dean remember Luis Figo playing for Real Madrid. It's quite a while back now, isn't it? Showing my age there. But yeah, Malcolm, how much of a pleasure has it been to see him play for AFC Bournemouth in the first place? And can you really blame him?
Well, it's been unbelievable, really. I mean, he got his chance when City went out, wasn't it? Injured. And he just never looked back. Hat off to the guy. I mean, so mature on the field. And what Matt just said about his character, wanting to play for the club, the final couple of games, to give back what he can for his teammates, for the club, speaks volumes. What a good attitude. Can only wish him all the very best of luck. Hope it works out. He is in the Spanish squad, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I can't see any reason why he'll be a bench player. I'll go along with Matt and say yes, he's in the starting 11. And how must it be for him knowing that he's got Xabi Alonso as his manager? And I think that actually played into the narrative as well.
Yeah.
And then you've got Trent, accompanying on at the back as well. So a formidable starting 11 they've got. They're going to miss out on their league title, I think, this year. I think Barcelona will pip them anyway.
Yeah.
But what an opportunity at his age. And I think we actually mentioned this before on our previous cherry picking.
Yeah.
Or I mentioned it to Matt. He reminded me of, who was it? The centre back, Ramos.
Oh yes.
He will go on to be like Sergio Ramos. I think, wow, but the guy is just he's unflustered, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
There's no panic in him at all. And he's added more to his game the more games he's played.
Yeah.
It's not only the partnership with Saba at the back, it's also his desire to go forward and with the ball, not just pass it, but with the ball. And over the last few weeks, you've seen it countless times. I think, wow, he's stepping up. And I'm sure there's more to his all-round game coming anyway. And I'll certainly be watching out for him. But yeah, it's been great for Bournemouth. It's been great for him, obviously, to be put in the position, given the trust, and taking it with both hands. And he's going to reap the rewards. And just very, very best of luck to the guy.
It
And
will be.
just adding on what the other said just now. There's also a 5% that has to go to Malaga, so it's not only 10% to Juve.
Oh,
There's a
really?
5% to Malaga as well, and then it's over 3 installments, isn't it? The payment, so
Yeah.
PSR and all that. So they know how much money they'll be getting per season or whatever from Real Madrid to balance the books, and good business.
Yeah.
It would have been nice if they could have upped the price a bit, but okay.
Yeah. I mean, the business ain't that bad either, is it, really, when you look at it?
No.
It's, what was it, 12 million we signed in for? Okay,
Yeah.
we made 50, but we got to give 15% of that away. It's, from a business perspective, which is a terrible thing to, because we want the player to stay. We'd love the player to stay. But it's not bad business. But, we all wanted to see him in a Cherry shirt for another few years. But it's, I mean, as at the time of us doing this, there's still no agreement with his representatives there in Madrid. Currently negotiating, and as it stands, maybe when this goes live, it may have been completed and announced, but at the time of obviously doing this, they're still negotiating. But I'm sure terms are going to be not too hard to negotiate. I don't think, will it?
No.
But yeah, what a player, and I think it's just been a privilege to watch him this season. And then, 10 years down the line, once he's got 4 Champions Leagues under his belts and God knows what else, titles and this, that, and the other, and he's played at the World Cup with Spain and that, we can all say, he developed part of his game at Bournemouth.
Right.
Well, he could win all sorts of trophies. No doubt there's going to be La Liga titles. There's going to be the Copa del Rey. There's probably going to be the Euros again. Spain are going to be right up there. Potentially the World Cup. I'd love to see England win it, but at the end of the day, the Spanish are starting to become the team to beat again. And he's a big part of that. And I can only wish him the very, 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 very best. And it shows, what a model professional he is, that he wants to play these last 2 games for this football club to actually finish on a high. And I think he will do. And wouldn't it be great to see him get, the last goal of the season? And, what sort of memories, honestly, is he the best defender that we've ever had? Now, does he surpass the likes of Nathan Ake? Of course, Kirkes is still here, but we're hoping we don't lose him as well. Is he the best central defender, let's say, that this football club's ever had? All right, historically, the likes of Steve Cook, are always going to be, thought of highly because of what they did with us. But, we're talking about quality here. And, at such a young age, is he going to be the best ever defender to play for this football club?
Ooh, go on, Malcolm. I'll let you have that one first.
Okay. Yeah, you forgot to mention Willow.
Oh, yes, Willow. Yeah, sorry, Willow. Sorry, mate.
I would say, personally, best defender ever for me is Nathan Ake, central defender for me.
Mm-hmm.
So, but he's up there with him. Dino's up there with him. But it's tough call. But that is just like off the top of my head. Yeah. And another point is really interesting. Making comparisons that players know that they're going to be leaving one thing and another. It doesn't matter where they're going, but it's how they, come across what the club means. We had it with Lloyd Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
He knew he was going, but he gave everything to the last game.
Yeah.
And then you had the Rat Ryan, didn't you? Who, the other end of the scale. So hats off to all the players who put the club first. Doesn't matter. They know what's coming for their futures, and they want to play football. And this young lad wants to play football, and I don't think it's about money. He's got so many years ahead of him. So, but yeah, Nathan Ake. Going back to the question.
Yeah. It is a good question because it's. I mean, we could go all the way back to 1996-97 season and a teenage Rio Ferdinand playing for Bournemouth who was class. Again, similar situation to Dino here, similar age, come out for, well, obviously totally different world, but pushed out by, Redknapp to get some game time and, get some men's football under his belt. And the next thing, he's straight into the West Ham side and the rest is history. It's a difficult one. He's definitely up there. I mean, I agree with Malcolm. He's on par with the likes of, like Malcolm's mentioned Willow, me, Coxey. Coxey was always my favourite defender growing up and was my hero growing up. So, but it's a different world. But yeah, since I think we will look, if you could look into the future, I think we will probably say he's probably the best to ever play for us because he's only going to get better.
Yeah,
he's only going to get better. You think, and I've said before, an at peak Dean Huijsen is going to be absolutely world class. And we've had the privilege to watch him for a season in a Bournemouth shirt.
Yeah.
So, and the guy's conducted himself so well. Really, really has. And I just think, in this day and age, it's very easy to get a big move, isn't it? And then think, well, I'm off anyway, lads. So, good luck, cheerio. He's actually going to come back and, he's going to see out these 2 games. He wants to be part of the squad. That's a real testament to his character. And, it's really, really disappointing to see him have to go. But for me, that's pleased me that he wants to see his time out at the club. He wants to be part of these last 2 games. He still wants to fight for that chance for Europe. We know we're not mathematically out of it. He still wants to do that. I just think, with the disappointment, that for me is really. What's the word I'm looking for? I'm looking for a word here.
It's kind of neutralised it, hasn't it?
Kind of dampened the disappointment.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, fair play to you, mate. You're getting your dream move, but you're still thinking about these last 2 games of the season, and you want to be in the squad and you want to be part of it with your teammates, and to say thank you to the club that's brought you in, put you effectively in the limelight, and now you've earned your dream move. I mean, just absolute credit to the player.
100%. And I think even if that clause wasn't in there, I think that this would have probably been the outcome anyway, seeing as Real Madrid were interested in him. We might have got a little bit more for the player, fair enough, but hey, we are a fairly small fish in what is a big boy's pond in the Premier League. We are getting bigger. Bill is feeding the fish, so to speak. But when a shark comes along, like Real Madrid, or should we call them a killer whale, that they're such a big club. Hey, there's no way that you can stop it. I tell you what, you can tell that I've been watching. Have you ever seen that program about the old river monsters and things like that? You can see that I've been watching now. I don't know what it's called now, but he goes and goes around and has a look at all these like things in the sea, and starts messing around with them like
Lost me.
piranhas and things. No,
Anyway,
that's fine. Moving swiftly on. There we are. Somebody will know what program that is.
Yeah, just before we do, the other thing as well is one door closes, another door opens. It's quite exciting now to see who we're potentially bringing in, which I think we discussed last week. There's a name that
there is, yeah,
and they reckon the deal's quite close to being done. So when one door closes and another door opens, our recruitment's been really good. Obviously we lost Dom, and we all thought, oh God, where's the goals coming from? Who's going to be his replacement? They've brought in Evan Nilsson, exciting player, so I also trust our recruitment.
Trust the process.
And yeah, that's the word, isn't it? Trust the process.
Trust the process.
It's exciting to see what happens next as well.
100%.
It's also business, isn't it? And the club is a business, so they're going to get some extra shekels in there. It's going to help. I don't want players to leave, but we do know that we need to strengthen the squad. It's not just like the 11, 12, 13, 14 that normally picked week in, week out. We'll have to have a more depth in the squad that are available to play at that level. And younger players are coming in, and it's looking. To be honest, I'm really excited already about next season.
Yes,
I can't. There might even be a tactical change. Who knows with Andoni? Anything is possible with him. But it's exciting times, and don't be disheartened because one of the best players has left or whatever. Football evolves, and it doesn't stand still. You just got to go with it. And I said, as before, trust the process and believe in what Big Bill's doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
100%. Wise words, Malcolm. Wise words. But I tell you what, let's talk about a wise player, and a wise player in Adam Smith. 400 games for AFC Bournemouth. And yeah, you just said it right there, Malcolm. He is an absolute legend for this football club. I tell you what, we can talk about 2015 all we want, because I tell you what, it's a remarkable season. But let's talk about the best moments for Smithy in a Cherries shirt. Go for it, far away.
Well, I'll leave that to you guys.
There we are.
In terms of best moments, I mean, there's loads of moments, but when you say the name Adam Smith to me,
you think Bournemouth?
It's the service he's given this football club.
Yeah.
Now, I remember when he first coming on loan, coming from Spurs. I think Brad has brought him in, and it was when we had the playoff disappointment against Huddersfield. He was. You could see he was a good player then. You could see he was a good player, but I mean, he's proven his quality, isn't he, over the years? Now, obviously, you're at a big club like Spurs, you get let go, you come to a club like Bournemouth, and like you just said, that famous class of 14, 15, when obviously we won the championship.
Yeah.
And he's now our last surviving member of that. So he's grown up in the with the Premier League, stayed with us a couple of years in the Championship. He gives you 110% on the pitch, Smithy. He's good defensively. He's good at going forward. Yeah. and I'm glad now he's got the armband. Obviously, when Neto was here, Neto was captain. I, personally didn't have any issues with Neto being captain, but obviously, with him moving off on loan and not being part of the plans at the minute, there's no other better leader really than Smithy. He knows the club like the back of his hand.
Yes.
To make 400 appearances for one club in this day and age now is kind of not really happening so much these days, is it?
Rare, isn't it?
And he's got to have a testimonial. He's got to have a testimonial. Has to. And what a servant to the club. You go back over the years and you can name players that have spent lengthy periods at the club, and but it doesn't happen in football now.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy has been excellent for Bournemouth, excellent over the years.
Well, that 2014-15 season, of course, was his breakthrough at AFC Bournemouth. That was when, okay, he was on loan, like we say in League One, but of course, it was when he had returned, when we got him, permanently. He did play a couple of games the year before, but of course, that season, the Premier League, the promotion to the Premier League season, was when he kind of made a breakthrough. And he was pretty much ever present in that season where we had our highest finish. Of course, at the moment, hopefully we can surpass that in the coming weeks. But it's incredible. It's incredible what he's done. He was a big part of that side, who were trying to get back out of the Championship. I know he had a little bit of bad luck, didn't he, under Scott Parker, but, and then when we come back up, he helped those youngsters that were written off by Scott Parker. They were written off after Liverpool. Scott Parker must look back at that, and I'm sure he probably regrets what he said that time about Maxim Denim and that squad. But Smithy was a big part of actually pulling them together. Don't get me wrong. There was times when he made mistakes and you thought, well, he's going to struggle, because his pace is going. I mentioned that game a couple of times against Brighton when Matoma got, caught him out. But he's adapted his game. Andoni Iraola has helped him, and Smithy has actually implemented that as well to change his game, where he seems to stand off the player a little bit slightly more, give the opponent or the attacker that little bit more space so he can actually make his move. Because you got to be honest, there's not many right backs at the age of 34, playing regularly in the Premier League, and that's such a good standard like Smithy is.
Yeah. Do you know what? I forget his age sometimes. I do forget his age.
He doesn't show it, does he? He really does not show it. He is the player that youngsters will look up to, but he doesn't show it. He's still athletic. Yeah, we can see it sometimes when he's coming up against somebody who is particularly nippy, but he's adapted his game. He's realised, okay, I've lost a yard of pace, like all players do. Nobody's immune from that. Bloody hell, I used to be able to run, at such speeds, and then nowadays I don't think I could run at all. Probably beer as well, that doesn't help. But Smithy, he's lost a yard of pace, but he's adapted his game.
Yeah.
You must also point out, look at the players he's keeping out of the first team with his performances. Younger players. I think this was also mentioned somewhere online. I can't remember where. I thought it was really, really interesting. Players that have gone off on loan elsewhere, and because Smithy's basically, he's made that position his own. Okay, he got injured, didn't he? And he was out for a while. So, but I take my hat off to him. Hey, what a legend!
Yeah.
They're probably one of the first players on the team sheet every week, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no. I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I mean, the word legend can often be used probably too easily, but not in Smithy's case.
100%. 100%. I think, you know, he is a model professional. He's a model professional. He's a player that everybody, all these youngsters do look at, you know, the glitz and glamour players like Kylian Mbappe and players like that. But, you know, what youngsters should also look at is the likes of Smithy, somebody who is loyal to a football club, somebody who adapts their game in the later years of their career, somebody who, to be honest, yes, he was unlucky with injuries earlier on in the season. However, you know, he's come back the same player. Some players don't come back from that at that sort of age. You know, they don't come back from that at that sort of age. We've seen so many players retire probably before Smithy's age because of injuries. Smithy just keeps going. So he is a legend, and I'm sure that he's got a couple more years at the very least in him, potentially at this level, because he looks after himself.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's the key. You know, how he looks after himself, and yeah, you've used the word model professional. So I think that sums that up. But yeah, congratulations on 400 appearances.
Yeah, definitely.
Too,
Here's the 500. Adam, if you are watching this, and Adam Smith, do you know what? Whenever I see him, he's a lovely, lovely, lovely guy. Very quiet, very reserved, but he always stops and says hello because A, he knows who I am now, and B, most of the time I'm wearing this, you know, or another Bournemouth shirt. So he's like, "You all right, mate?" And do you know what? He's just a pleasant guy. So honestly, Smithy, here's to another 100. I'm sure you'll be looking after yourself, keeping yourself in good fitness, and can't wait to see what he does next. But I tell you what, let's talk about this season because it's been a season, and again, there is a lot of polarizing things after this Villa game. One of the worst takes that I saw was that the players have let themselves down. Which, you know, if people were there back in 2008, I don't think these fans that come out with, "Oh, the players have let themselves down," remember seeing us at Blythe Spartans. You would know this team are not letting themselves down. But I tell you what, let's talk about it because I think, and I agree with this, we can't be disappointed. I didn't think that, you know, Europe was on the cards. The further we got along, I got more excited. I did say at one point, you know, when we'd beaten Forest, I said, because of the players being linked away, it's probably a necessity to get Europe. However, hey, it looks like we probably will fall just short, but the season's not over. You know, stranger things have happened. And I'm not disappointed. I'm not disappointed. If Europe doesn't happen, so be it. And you do need a squad with extreme strength in depth to go through Europe and also continue in the Premier League, you know, at the sort of level that we are at the moment. You know, we've seen it with Wolves, we've seen it with Portsmouth, we've seen it with Brighton, we've seen it with other teams where, and the worst one was Ipswich back, you know, in 2001, where they had a fantastic team, finished fifth, I think it was, in the league, was playing the likes of Inter Milan. I think they even beat Inter Milan, and then still got relegated that same season because they didn't have that strength in depth. Who wants to give their honest opinions of this? Am I being harsh or nice, or am I, I don't think we should be discontented at all.
Take it away, Matt.
Yeah, we'll do then. Thank you, Malcolm. Yeah, like I've said to you, Craig, over the season, let's not get carried away. You've had your moments where you're going, oh yeah, when we want to flight back from so and so or whatever, and I'm like, I've kept myself completely grounded, and like I've said all along, let's take one game at a time. Let's enjoy the ride.
Mm-hmm.
And I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Yes, we will do something in a couple of weeks where we look back over the season, like we did last year, and hopefully Malcolm will join us on that one. And we will pick out games that have probably cost us that. Mm-hmm. But for me, it's going to be more fun looking back at the wins. Like the Newcastle away. So many this year, isn't there?
Yeah.
And we're discussing individual games, that when we look back over the season, but I can't. We all would have loved Europe.
Yeah.
The headlines. Bournemouth. 10 year ago. We're in the Championship, and thought that was the pinnacle, and now they're going into their first European campaign, and it would have been great. It would have been wonderful. But it's still not mathematically impossible as we stand. Yes, we have two tough games, so I still stand by. I think Leicester ain't going to be no pushover. I mean, look what they did at Forest the other day. They grinded a point out there at Forest. So
this last game.
Yeah, and apparently he's not going to be available for the Bournemouth game. Someone's told me today.
Oh,
that's right. His last game's this weekend. Mm.
Yeah, that's right, isn't it, Malcolm? Yeah, someone did tell me that earlier. So we have still got two tough games to go, but it's not mathematically uncertain. I just think it's been such a great season, and like I say, I'm going to take away from this season the great football we've watched, the great players we've watched, and what's the future going to hold. We progressed last season, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, yes, I know the whole first 9 games, and like I said all along during that, it's going to click, and it did.
Mm-hmm.
And when it clicked, look at the football we were watching.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, this year, if we finish 8th, 9th, 10th, it's progression on last season. We've got another transfer window to look forward to. Well, yes and no, because I'm sure, unfortunately, there might be a couple more that might move on. But, they've got their plans in place already of who they want to bring in. And, I just think, the icing on the cake would have been Europe, wouldn't it? That would have been the icing, maybe the cherry on top. But, excuse the pun. But, yeah, you can't be disheartened with this season. I thoroughly enjoyed it. We still got 2 games to go. Hopefully, we thoroughly enjoy those as well.
Yes.
But yeah, I can't be discontented with this season. I mean, it's the best football I've watched.
100%.
It's the best football I've watched, and when you go back over the years, it's the football under Eddie was great. We had some magical times. He's made this foundations of what we are now, and Donny's come in and taken those foundations and building upon them, and Bill, and obviously all the Bill's team coming in with the club, taking over from Maxim, and just everything's exciting, isn't it? And the future's looking even more exciting, I reckon.
Definitely. Malcolm, what's your takes on this season? And of course, if we do miss out on that trip to Germany, will you be disappointed or are you just proud?
Disappointed, no. Very similar to Matt's comments. Move on from last season. Obviously, once Andoni was put in place, surprised everybody. And once he got the ball rolling, it wasn't the best performance against Burnley, but it was the one that was needed to get the points, and it just stepped up from there, and it's progress, and certainly go along with Matt. Take each game one at a time. It does my head in, really, to be honest with you, when people say, "Oh, what are we going to get out of the next 4 games?" I mean, anybody can try and predict, but I'd prefer keep your feet on the ground. Let's have a look at the weekend or midweek, whatever the next game is, and then take it from there. Superb points performance. We've got new record points. I didn't expect Europe this season anyway. Progression from last season was a must, and I even said if we can get 10th, it'll be good. And that's why. Sorry about the light here. Next season is one to get really excited about. Now, you have to look at the big picture. It's not just games of football. It's about the setup, the club, what Bill's plan is. And even he was surprised at how far we've come this season.
Yeah.
So we got three years at least to reach that target, and I seriously think that we can hit it next season. But looking back on this season, Andoni ball has been absolutely superb. It's been a treat. I've been sat on my settee watching games, open mouth, thinking, "What the hell's going on here?" Just things that we've never seen before. And it's just so unbelievable. It's fast. It can be quite physical at times, very intensive. And then you think, hang on a minute, we're playing Arsenal at home. And they were, sorry, but they were dire on the day, I know, but you still have to go and put in a performance. I just picked that one out of the hat. Man City, first win against them. Absolutely unbelievable. I think, well, it's what dreams are made of. This is why we follow football, why we support the clubs that we do. And I'm just thinking, am I getting nervous at the end of the game? And I wasn't, to be honest with you, even when they got one back. I thought, we're going to see this out. And it's having the belief that things are going to happen, and you just move on from there. Newcastle away, like you said, unbelievable. That has got to be the top performance for the season so far. And then to follow it up with Notts Forest, stuffing them at home. Awesome. But I think really one of the main talking points of the season would be when Bournemouth were up to 5th in the league. Then suddenly all the pundits, didn't matter what channel you're watching, oh look, there's Bournemouth. How did they get there? And they've never been given 10 minutes on the TV before. And then suddenly, the talk is coming out, and they're watching us, and they were getting a little bit, lost for words, I think. So, it's good. We've made a statement this season. Let's see where next year takes us, really. But discontented? Nah, not a chance. Not a chance. I've got so many games on my box that have been recorded. It's something for the summer, when there's no football, I can
Reminisce.
Sit down and reminisce. Yeah, I think cool. I remember that game. Let's watch that again. Yeah, I've got some beauties on there, so good fun, but brilliant. Yeah, hats off to the boys.
Do you know what? I want them to bring out a DVD of this season. I know that they've stopped doing this. Football clubs have, and I think it's a crying shame. But this is a season you want to remember forever.
It is, because I can't add it to me collection, can I?
If anybody from the media team is watching this, or the marketing team, please release a DVD, because I think every Bournemouth fan just wants to keep hold of that forever and watch it back, and then watch it back some more, and watch it back some more. You know, it's been unbelievable. Like you say, the win at St James's Park for me was probably the best, but the Forest game, phenomenal on that day.
You didn't see it coming, did you?
No. I actually, I probably said it on one of these or something, or I've said it to Craig and whoever we, going to the game with. Be happy with the draw today.
Yes.
Be a good result.
Well,
Both sides were really doing well at the time. And I thought, great, we get a point today. That's not a bad result. But to do that, what?
It's just incredible.
Incredible. Sorry, the form of Newcastle and Notts Forest when we played them, the form run that they had. I suppose being Bournemouth, it's sort of instilled in your DNA a little bit to be a bit perhaps reserved. Not I wouldn't say negative, because there are some obviously, but don't be too overconfident, if you like. But to turn up and be only with your bare minimum 11, 12 players at that time, and then to produce those performances, it just you couldn't write a book about it, really, could you? Or could you?
I don't think you could. I don't think you could. It's been absolutely incredible. Well, let's talk about this weekend's game. Well, it's not weekend, is it? Because it's been.
Look, just before we get, just as we reminisce in there, look at that for an old program.
Oh, look at that!
Well, I say tell you what, Gareth
the official
£2.
Yeah.
Northampton Town.
What a load of cobblers!
Yeah.
I was doing some research the other day because I'm doing. Obviously, we do some international shows with Johnny, don't we? Like we build up Cherries. Our next one we're doing Scotland. And I got this out the other day because I'm looking for one player, Kieran McInnesby. There you go. Does anyone, if you remember watching Kieran McInnesby, drop it in the comments.
There we are. Let's talk about this game that is coming up on Tuesday, because of course Man City have got the FA Cup final. This is stupid. Firstly, can I have a little moan?
Is it quick?
Anyway,
it should be quick. Yeah. Malcolm knows me too well. But I tell you what, it is stupid. The FA Cup final should be the last game of the season. It should not be switching games out. You should not be doing that. However, this might have a positive effect for us, because how serious is Man City going to take this game? Or is this going to be momentum? I spoke to Lou Cottrell from Cassia earlier on this week. Well, it was just the end of last week, actually, because he is touring at the moment. He's all over the place. So we had to, do it before the Villa game, which, has obviously changed things a little bit. But Southampton got a point against Man City, which nobody would have expected. The thing is do City go into this with momentum, because they want momentum for that final? Well, No, they. See, this is the thing, isn't it? Of course, yeah. I'm getting mixed up with the bloody days because it's stupid. It should be the last game of the season. Do City focus on the FA Cup final and kind of play a second string against us? There we are.
Hello.
Got it.
Were you ranting there? Were you?
Yes.
Sorry, everybody went off the screen, so it's.
Oh.
Craig, can you get down from your soapbox, please?
You
Anywho,
saw it all, though, Malcolm, didn't you?
Anywho.
You saw all the rant, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah. It was just sat there and be like, "Oh no, he's going on again."
Anywho, let's have a score prediction.
Right. Who wants to go first? Shall I go first?
Come on.
Go on,
While
then.
you're up there in your soapbox.
I'm going to say we're beaten 2-0. The main reason being is because they will underestimate the mighty AFC Bournemouth and will batter them 2-0. And the thing is we need to get a result from this game if we want any glimmer of hope of getting into Europe. So 2-0 for me.
Okay, yeah, fair dues. Malcolm, do you want to have a stab at it, or do you want me to go?
No, I'll have a stab at it.
Go on, then.
So City play the FA Cup on
Saturday,
don't they?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to say that we will win. Not for any particular reason other than that we'll score one, maybe 2 goals more than them. I think maybe 1 goal more. So I'm going to go for 2-1 to us. And we're going to be doing a really historical double-double this season. So Arsenal home and away, Man City home and away. There we go. That's my plot. 2-1.
2-1. So me and Malcolm have gone for wins, Matt. Are you going to piss us off?
Well, he's entitled to his opinion. So
Thank
yes, yeah, I know. I'm joking, but you know.
Thank you. I like the box to do it. Do you know what? I've got you've always got to back your team. This is where score predictions is quite difficult because you've always got to back your team. This depends on what the cup final turns out, I think. And a draw. I'm sitting on the fence on this one. I'm sitting on the fence. Kevin De Bruyne's last home game. If they win the cup, they're going to be well up. You know, De Bruyne's not going to want to go out his last game at the Etihad, you know, easily. He's going to want to obviously, he'll be well up for it. And, you know, he's a quality player, even, you know, at the age he is. I want to agree with you two, really. My heart's agreeing with you two. But my head is saying different, as always. 1-1.
It's all right. Nothing wrong with that.
1-1. I want to say we'll win. And I'm hoping and I'm praying I'm wrong. And we do get the win. But I'm going with a draw.
But taking 4 points off City in a season ain't bad either, is it?
No.
Well, exactly.
No. But I'm hoping you two are right and I'm completely wrong. So fingers crossed.
Mm-hmm. Well,
who knows?
Fingers crossed me and Malcolm are right and we get a famous double. But let's see. We'll have to discuss it next week. But I tell you what, let's finish off with our guest the Cherry.
Oh yeah, guess the Cherry.
Yeah.
Don't ask me. I'm a clue.
So he's a Pompey legend with 3 under-21 England caps. He's known as a striker, but can also play right back. Man City paid a then club record $3 million for his services from Portsmouth. He made 146 appearances for the Cherries, scoring 12 goals. He's the current assistant manager at Port Vale. So interesting. I have got some more clues, and I'm guessing. I'll tell you what, I'm going to throw them at you, Matt, before we reveal.
Yeah.
Okay. He used to manage AFC Bournemouth for a period of time.
Well, that's just giving it away. I just left that one off there. Next.
Yes. He has been on this show.
Oh God.
He has been on the show.
Can we just unveil now?
Malcolm, do you want to have a guess?
No,
On the show? I know who he is.
Well, go on and reveal him.
It's Bradders, I'm sure. There we go. Boom.
Well done.
There we are. I've achieved something in my life. But yeah, Lee Bradbury, and of course, he did come on for an interview. Oh, crikey, that must be about 2-3 years ago. He's at Havant and Waterloo. No, he wasn't at Havant, was he? He was at Eastleigh.
He was at Eastleigh at the time, yeah.
Yes. There we go. So he's brothers. Did he ever manage Havant and Waterlooville? I'm trying to think now. I'm getting mixed up.
I can't remember. I can't remember.
Play for them. I'm gonna have to just quickly.
I think he'd done some scouting for Arsenal as well at one point in their sort of academies or something. I think I might be wrong. But...
He did. Yeah, he did. He did manage Havant and Waterlooville. What a random fact that is. There we go. But there we go. Thank you again for everybody watching. Malcolm, pleasure as always. We love having you on here.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Not a problem at all. Not a problem at all. And, you know, I always love it when you put me back in my place after I jump on my soapbox, because I do get on that, don't I, quite a bit. You watch. If a VAR decision goes against us...
don't start.
I will start on another run.
Stop it. We could actually have, you know, I mean, only if you wanted to, you know, a little chat about VAR on one of these shows.
You two should have a chat on VAR, because I think it'd be great.
I think we should. That's a later show. That's coming up. If you're up for it, Malcolm, I'm up for it.
I mean, there's just so many possibilities, aren't there, with that VAR?
Yeah.
I mean, because I do watch an awful lot of football, and it's the bane of my life when the commentator says VAR checking this. You know, I mean, it happens in every game multiple times, and I'm just thinking, what are they checking for? You know, it just obviously when it is, you know, a really big decision, I can understand that may be a rep missed, but you know, even small things throughout the game, I just think, why just let it go on, you know. It's
no, I totally agree.
And I think that's probably the reason why a lot of people are hating it, because why do they have to jump in on everything? I thought the criteria was certain things that they have to do and check, which is fine, but just let it go. Just let it go. You can come back to it later if you must, you know. But people want to watch football. They don't want to be sat in the stands or whatever, you know, waiting 5 plus how many more minutes, you know, for a decision to be made. You know? And it's unfair on the players as well. So okay. So we could talk about that some other time.
We shall do it. Let me know when you've got a free afternoon. You know, for a couple of hours.
Always.
We shall do it.
Well,
we shall do it.
Almost always, because you know I do have, you know, a couple of trips booked. So you know.
There we are. Well,
I did mention Matt, didn't I? I was coming over. So
he's coming over.
Excellent. We are looking forward to that as well, Malcolm. And we might have to.
Do you guys want to meet up?
Absolutely.
And we have.
Are you serious?
Yes, we're going to do it. What's that?
You're coming to Bournemouth, aren't you, Malcolm?
Well, I'm coming to Dorset.
There
I'm
we are.
not far away. I'm in South
okay.
Dorset.
Where you
There
going
I'm
we
to
not
are.
telling you where I am.
Well, I tell you what, when we find you, Malcolm, we'll bring the little camera
Yeah.
that we've got now along and we'll record it all. But yeah,
No, we'll just go for it. We'll just
I know, yeah.
What's he on about?
get excited every now and then, so
Yeah,
you got to calm him down.
yeah. I've got one of these little what's it called, cameras, the flip cameras now. Took it abroad, didn't I, with me? But yeah, we are going to keep your eyes peeled next season. You know, we are going to do few more shows with that. But Matt, as always, a pleasure. And then
Lovely. It's been a pleasure to discuss all things Cherries and football and that with you both. It's been lovely.
definitely,
Yeah,
Look
thanks.
forward to the next time.
Cool. And like everybody, thank you so much for joining us. If you're listening to us on Spotify, come over to the YouTube channel, come subscribe. If you're on the YouTube channel, go over to Spotify, do follow us on there as well. We're on Amazon, Apple, everywhere. We're probably on other places that I don't know of, so go find us on them as well. But until next time, up the cherries. We'll see you soon.
Okay. Ta-da.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the Talksport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search Talksport Fan Network.